Hi, it's Art, short for Artemy, and you can find me at CU Artist pretty much everywhere. I was struggling with coming up with ideas to talk about, though I already did have yesterday's idea written for the day before and just forgot that it existed, so whoops. And my partner suggested that I talk about it being like a skill to learn how to talk about your art. I'm not exactly sure how much of that skill I have learned, personally, but I do think there are multiple aspects to it, so I will chat about that, I suppose. The first is being able to use the technical words and jargon to talk about art. That's not the hardest thing in the world to learn, but like I've mentioned, I haven't taken a ton of art classes, but there are definitely things that I am actively trying to learn, and I suppose I know more than I realize. I definitely have a habit of kind of forgetting the act of learning and then assuming other people have the same experiences to have that knowledge as me. So I know thumbnails is a comic-specific jargon speak for the small images that you draw to work out a page before actually drawing it. For animation, people would say storyboards. Like, I know that that's not something a beginner would know necessarily. But there's a lot of more technical art stuff that I don't know the words for. I am always getting kind of confused with like values and stuff, so I definitely would love to learn more about that because I think being able to name those things would better help me be able to improve them in my own work. But it's also good for like being able to compliment other artists and just being able to like look at things with a finer eye. Instead of saying something like, I like your style, which can be kind of generic, I definitely do say that a lot because it can get the general vibe, but saying something like, the hatching that you used at this particular part of the drawing really caught my eye, or the way you exaggerated the proportions here, I think, works really well, can definitely be a good way to talk about art with people. Also being able to translate that jargon if you are talking to somebody who doesn't know as much about art. The other aspect of being able to talk about your art with people is having the confidence to do so. Confidence to share that part of yourself, because I do feel like art is pretty personal. I definitely have a harder time doing this like in person with people, but very frequently I kind of just want to create a comic and then show it and be like, that should speak for itself, but I know that that is not always the case. I also just personally, in regards to my main comic, I don't want to spoil things, so trying to figure out how to talk about it in ways that aren't giving away too much detail is definitely a fine line to learn how to walk. At least with making these videos, there is definitely also an aspect of thinking about who I am talking to about my own art. This is kind of aimed at other comic artists mostly, or people who want to become a comic artist. It definitely would be very different if I was talking to like my family about how I am doing the art things, just because they have a lot less of a knowledge base about stuff. I have definitely posted on Facebook talking about thumbnails or a lot of other comic-related stuff at certain points in my life, and family members were like, I don't know what that means, but looks cool. So thinking about the audience for who you are going to be talking about art is also a step in the right direction, I guess. There are 10 days left of this challenge now at this point, which is wild. I did somehow manage to mess up the calculation for having this land exactly on the posting date for the comic. I have like a little countdown timer on my home screen, and it led me astray a little bit. So this will be ending before the comic actually posts, but it will be posting on October 29th. So I just figured that I would mention that. That is all I have for today. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you tomorrow.